Alright, see how well this works. Don't worry, I'm not going to be looking at the... I already know. Shouldn't be doing that while you're driving. I'm not going to look at the camera. I'm just talking. I sometimes get... Oh, let me turn this beeper on. Let's try that again. Alright. I know what everybody's going to say. Don't look at the camera. Don't... Okay, start again. I know what everyone's going to say. Shouldn't be doing that while you're driving. I get it. I'm not doing that while I'm driving. I'm simply talking while I'm driving. I'm not going to look at the camera. It's on record. I'm just going to talk. Sometimes I talk better when I'm driving. It's the ADHD. If I got things kind of distracting me a little bit or that are taking some of my attention, that allows me to take the remainder of the attention and focus it better. See, people always say, and it's right there in the definition, ADHD, deficit disorder. It's a deficit. They say that, but it's not. It's that you're paying attention to too much at one time. I'm paying attention to everything. So with driving, also I have this really cool thing in my office, and it's called kinetic wall art. Actually, I think I'm gonna take it to the house today so that it can be behind me in the videos. At least when I'm doing lives or something. But I wind it at the beginning of the day, and then it slowly unwinds throughout the day, and it spins, and it makes a little bit of noise. Not a lot of noise, just the mechanical operation of it has little clicks. But because that, when I'm in my office, if I wind that up, it distracts some of my attention that's trying to bounce everywhere and pay attention to everything at once. It takes, I don't know what percentage, but it takes a good percentage, even though I'm not looking at it, and my mind is kind of picturing it unwind, and again, not thinking about it with my prefrontal cortex. It's not like I'm intentionally paying attention to it. It just happens. So the same thing with driving. I'm not sitting there just going, oh, there's trees on the side of the road, but my mind it knows how to drive, so it's just driving. And since it's paying attention to a lot of the driving, it allows me to refocus the remainder of my attention in a more effective way. So, all that to say, what was I going to say? That's quite hilarious. Quite hilarious as I talk about ADHD and attention and being able to remember. Ha! Ha ha! Ha ha! What was it though? I think it was good. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be trying to do it while I'm driving. Cognitive distortions. I wanted to give an example of why it's a good thing to know your cognitive distortions. So, after studying cognitive distortions and learning what jumping to conclusions looks like, obviously we know by the definition of those words is what jumping to conclusions is. But starting to recognize how you specifically jump to conclusions is the important part. So I was able to look at past relationships after learning about cognitive distortions, and I was able to see back to where I would get a thought would come into my mind about maybe the other person, the other person in the relationship being dishonest or perhaps cheating or something like that. Now, I have been cheated on a few times, so doesn't discount that. But let's just say this person wasn't cheating on me, but I have that thought come in. Maybe she's cheating. Okay? Before understanding what jumping to conclusions is and understanding what cognitive distortions are, that thought would come in my mind, and immediately I am accusing the other person or bringing it up, and I'm getting my uncomfortable emotions are starting to rise, and now I'm just reacting and I'm blaming the other person for something that never happened. Okay? But knowing what jumping to conclusions looks like, when that thought comes into my head, I'm able to say, well, what evidence do I have to back that thought up? And let's just say in this particular instance there is no cheating or no dishonesty going on. And so after my mind does a little check-in with myself and looks for the evidence and realizes there is no evidence, it can deal with that thought in a different way. Instead of embodying that thought and exploding and reacting and blaming and doing all of those things, I can recognize I'm having a thought that's trying to tell me that this person's cheating. It doesn't mean the person's cheating. I'm just having the thought. But before like recognizing and knowing what cognitive distortions are, when those thoughts came in, that was the truth. That person's cheating. They're lying. And so, but the devil doesn't want us to know what cognitive distortions are. He doesn't want us to know what the lies look like. So I guarantee you he has put a lot of his efforts into the people that make the rules for schools. Look, the devil has a limited amount of resources. Okay, I don't know how many angels and demons there are, but I know there's twice as many angels as there are demons. That's what the Word of God says. But the enemy has to strategically use his forces and the forces of evil, and he has to strategically put that energy somewhere, because his goal is to kill, steal, and destroy what God has created. And if he comes after an individual that doesn't have much influence, then he can get in that person's head and mess with that person. But if he can do the same thing to a person that has influence, maybe the news, maybe the people that make the rules for the schools, that's what we're talking about in this case, Hollywood actors, we see so many of them spewing lies or believing lies, and that's the enemy. Because if you can get a person that influences 25 million people in the way they think, I'm just going to say Kim Kardashian, just because I know that those people have a lot of following. I would never be influenced by her, but she does influence a lot of people. And I'm not saying that she's influenced by evil, but if she was to be influenced by evil, and perhaps I think some of her actions in the past have been influenced by evil, it doesn't mean she's an evil person. Heck, I've done evil things, right? But when you can recognize the lies, you can keep yourself from jumping to conclusions. You can keep yourself from blaming people, all of that. Alright, I'm at work. I gotta go. Peace.